Natalie, wrapped in a white satin robe, settled at the table with a fresh cup of coffee, flipping through the newspaper while still trying to shake off sleep. She ignored her son Noah, who noisily slurped his cereal across from her. Suddenly, he looked up. "Happy Mother's Day," he said, then went back to his cereal. "Some Mother's Day," Natalie thought grimly. Then Noah dropped his bowl, shattering glass and spilling milk everywhere. Natalie flinched. "What I really want today," she thought, "is a break from that kid." At 24, Natalie was still attractive but felt trapped by her 8-year-old son. His father had abandoned her as soon as he learned about the pregnancy, forcing her to drop out of high school and raise Noah alone. She loved him but resented him too, blaming him, unfairly, for her lost dreams. Today was one of those days. "But Mommy," Noah whined, "all the other kids are going to see that movie. Why can't I?" "Because I said so," Natalie snapped. "You're too young. It's violent and messy. You can watch that stuff when you're older." Noah stomped off, pouting. Natalie sighed, stepping on one of Noah's forgotten action figures. She was still in her robe, and he was already making her day miserable. Annoyed, she went to make her bed and then Noah's. Noah flopped onto his bed, furious. Everyone was talking about the movie. It looked cool, but it was PG-13, and his mom wouldn't let him go. Did she think he was a baby? He stared toward the kitchen, feeling the usual anger. She was always telling him what he could or couldn't do, bossing him around. He hated it. At 8, he was too old for that. "And what does she do?" he muttered. "Just sits around, collecting child support and welfare. And I don't get any of it." He didn't consider that she'd been working until recently and was still searching for a job. "She sure has it easy," he thought. "No one to boss her. I wish, just once, I could be the boss." Natalie forced herself to relax and smiled, opening her jewelry box. She pulled out a necklace her mother had given her, passed down from her grandmother, something precious that reminded her of family. Holding it tightly, she returned to the table to finish her coffee, her thoughts drifting back to Noah. It made her angry that he didn't listen. Her days were hard enough, and she was tired of his defiance. "If only for one day," she muttered, "he could see what I go through." Suddenly, Noah felt a strange tingling in his head. Everything blurred. When his vision cleared, he was back at the kitchen table but couldn't move. Panic rose. He realized he was holding something but couldn't look at his hands. After a moment, his body moved on its own. He saw a necklace in his hands and dropped it. His hands weren't his own. He tried to scream but no sound came out. Helpless, he watched as his hand lifted a coffee cup to his lips. He fought it but couldn't stop himself. The coffee was bitter and strong, but he strangely liked it. He tried to put the cup down, but his hands disobeyed. He tried to call out, "Mommy," but his mouth refused to obey. Noah forced himself to calm down, noticing how strange his body felt. There was a weight on his chest, but he couldn't look down. He seemed bigger too. Curiosity started to grow, though fear still ruled. His hands raised the cup again. He sipped, struggling but powerless to stop. When he finally set it down, relief and worry washed over him, wondering what would come next. He had no idea what was happening and no clues to explain it. All he could do was go along for the ride, powerless even to put down a cup when he wanted to. Curious, he noticed his body bending over for something. His hands reached for a pack of his mom's cigarettes. He tried to pull away but couldn't stop himself. He took one out, brought it to his lips. Panic surged again. He tried to scream but no sound came. Those things were disgusting, and yet he was about to smoke one against his will. His hands lit the cigarette, and despite his struggle, he inhaled deeply. The smoke filled his mouth, throat, lungs. Then he exhaled. Shock overwhelmed him. How could he have done that? He wanted to scream in frustration but couldn't. Again, he took another puff and realized it didn't hurt as he'd feared. It tasted strange, not completely foul. Helpless, he sat there smoking and sipping coffee, trapped in this body. After a while, he stubbed out the cigarette and stood up, carrying the empty cup to the sink. He was startled by how tall he was, eye level with the cupboards. Fear gnawed at him as he struggled to resist his body's commands. He found himself walking to the bathroom, stopping before the mirror. Horror froze him as he saw his mom's face staring back. That was why he hadn't seen her, he was inside her. Scared but oddly amused, he might have laughed if he weren't so terrified. His hands ran through damp hair from his mom's earlier shower. Sitting on the toilet, he experienced the unsettling sensation of urinating. Looking down, he wiped between his legs and froze. His male organ was gone, replaced by a strange opening surrounded by hair. He recognized what girls had there but found it unsettling. He wanted to examine it more but couldn't control his body. Rising, he walked into his mom's bedroom. Sitting in her chair, he brushed his hair, giving up the fight. He wondered what caused this and if he'd ever return to normal. Fear lingered but curiosity grew. Now that he was his mom, he'd see everything she did. Soon, he rifled through her drawers and closet, pulling clothes onto the bed. He took off the robe he'd been wearing and stood before her dresser mirror, his hands tracing the unfamiliar curves on his chest. He studied them carefully, odd lumps with pointers larger and darker than his own. The strange sensation unsettled him. Satisfied, his mom's body put on a pair of panties. Noah felt himself sliding them up, the strange pressure where nothing was there. His hands then reached for a bra, fastening the hooks and adjusting the cups. Wearing the bra felt odd and slightly uncomfortable, though his chest seemed lighter. He grabbed jeans, surprised by how tight they felt, then pulled on a green t-shirt. Lastly, he slipped on his mom's sandals with small heels. He stood and walked away, the heels making him feel strange but not painful. After hanging the robe and tidying up, he made the bed. Back in the chair, he reached for makeup on the table. Panic rose, and he tried to resist, but his body wouldn't slow. His hands applied mascara with practiced ease. He feared poking his eye but couldn't stop. As his hands finished the light makeup and lipstick, he felt disgusted. Before he could resist, he put on a watch, slipped a ring onto a finger, and carefully inserted earrings, wincing briefly but feeling relief that it didn't hurt. Finally, he left his mom's room, uncertain where he was headed. At his own bedroom door, he peeked inside and saw himself sitting on the floor playing with toys. Surprised, he heard his own mouth say, "Hi, Mommy. Make your bed," he found himself ordering in her voice. He knew this would happen but still felt stunned. His gaze shifted from his old body to the bed, then turned and left. Helpless, he returned to the kitchen table and picked up another cigarette. Not again, he thought. Unable to stop, he lit it and took a drag, exhaling the smoke. He sank onto the couch and switched on the TV. A dull soap opera played. He desperately wanted to change the channel but couldn't move his hand. He sat there, smoking and watching the soap opera, disgusted that he couldn't even close his eyes to avoid it. Helpless, he stared at the screen. Boring, he told himself. Some woman was whining about her sister sleeping with her husband while their dog was dying of cancer. Noah was actually relieved when the commercial break came, and he got up. But a few minutes later, he returned with another cup of coffee. Then he saw his old body walk past, but he couldn't turn his head to look. A moment later, he felt a tap on his elbow and turned to see himself standing there. "Happy Mother's Day," Noah heard in his own voice. "I made this for you at school," and a card was held out. He took the card, a Mother's Day card he'd made. He'd wanted to give it to his mom so badly, and holding it now felt strange. His mouth curved into a smile as he said, "Thank you, honey. It looks lovely." Then, awkwardly, he hugged his own body, amazed at how much bigger he felt compared to his old self. His old body ran off, and Noah was forced to turn back to that stupid show. Relieved when he finally got up to vacuum, Noah tackled the chores, preferring them to the soap opera. As he moved through the apartment, he kept picking up some of his toys. Each time, his mouth frowned. He tried to remember where he'd stashed them, hoping to reclaim them once he changed back, if he changed back. He hated the thought of being stuck like this. After vacuuming, he sat down again, smoking another cigarette. He was starting to get used to it, though it still felt strange. Then he headed to the bathroom, scrubbing thoroughly. He grimaced inside as he scrubbed the toilet with the brush. Gross. When lunchtime came, he went to the kitchen, grabbed items from the fridge, and made sandwiches. Looking at the bread, he thought it didn't look very appetizing. Placing the sandwich in front of his old body, he heard it complain, "Gross. I want SpaghettiOs." Noah's cheeks flushed. "Then go to the store, buy them, and cook them yourself. It's this or nothing," he said, horrified at his own words but unable to stop himself. His old face looked unhappy but then turned away, taking a bite of its tuna sandwich on the couch. Yuck, Noah thought. He hated tuna. He watched a game show on TV, finding it more interesting than before. As he watched, the other Noah approached, asking again about the movie with his friends. Noah snapped back. No warmth rose inside him, he was angry but couldn't explain why. Somehow, he was feeling his mom's anger. "I told you no. I don't want to repeat myself." "But Mommy," the other Noah protested. "No buts. But all the other kids get to see it," he whined. Noah found hearing it from this perspective oddly annoying. After more back and forth, the other Noah lost his temper. Suddenly, Noah felt himself grabbing the other Noah and spanking him hard. Horrified, he even felt the sting in his own hand. Shortly after, he yelled that the other Noah was grounded. Noah hated the thought he'd be the one grounded when he returned. At least he didn't have to feel the spanking now, shuddering inside. Later, Noah dragged the still pouting other Noah to the door, unsure where they were headed even as he led the way. He felt strange climbing into the driver's seat and turning the key. Excitement and amazement filled him as he found himself driving. He knew he wasn't really in control, but it thrilled him to be behind the wheel, feeling the car respond. He couldn't wait until he could drive for real. Surprised when they stopped at the grocery store, Noah walked the aisles, filling the basket. At the cookie aisle, he spotted Oreos, his favorite dessert, and begged, "Please get some, please." Hearing him, the other Noah agreed. Satisfied, Noah watched his hand drop the cookies into the basket, though a frown crept onto his face. Back home, his body began preparing dinner, which felt strange. He wanted to play outside or watch TV but couldn't control himself. After chopping vegetables, Noah realized cooking was more work than he expected. Noah felt a strange sense of satisfaction as he ate dinner, a flicker of pride for having helped cook it even though he knew he'd only been along for the ride while his mom did the real work. Still, he liked feeling involved. While washing dishes, he wanted desperately to go outside and play but couldn't make himself leave the sink. He gave up struggling and let his body take over, realizing that when he stopped fighting, it almost felt like he was the one moving. There was no point resisting. Sitting down, he lit another cigarette and watched the news, then a few other shows with the other Noah. Eventually, he found himself sending the other Noah to bed, just like his mom did every night. Once his other self was asleep, he watched a show with more violence than usual and some suggestive scenes that fascinated him, though he didn't fully understand them. At last, he got up, turned off the lights, and closed the curtains. Back in his mom's room, he undressed, feeling the unfamiliar bounce of chests on his chest, distracting but not enough to slow him down or cause hesitation. He crawled into bed, smoked another cigarette, and flipped through a Cosmopolitan magazine, though most of the words made no sense. He focused mostly on the pictures, eyes drifting over the text. Finally, he stubbed out the cigarette, switched off the light, and fell asleep. The next morning, Noah woke up and found he could sit up freely. He realized immediately he was back in his own room and his own body. Excited, he jumped up and ran around, thrilled to move on his own again. He was about to rush out and tell his mom what had happened, then stopped. He doubted she'd believe such a crazy story. He'd be embarrassed if she ever did find out. So he decided to keep it to himself, No one would ever believe something like that. Even a kid knew that. Natalie got up, shuddering at the memory of the spanking from the day before. She had no clue how it happened or how she'd spent the day trapped inside her son, but she suspected the necklace was involved. She decided immediately not to tell Noah. After all, even a kid wouldn't believe something that bizarre, and it would be embarrassing if he did. Better to keep it to herself, she thought. But this was definitely one Mother's Day she'd never forget. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.